Okay, picture this. It's the ultimate historical cliffhanger. The year is 323 BCE. The absolute most powerful man in the world, Alexander the Great, has just died. And I mean, he leaves behind this massive, horizon-spanning empire that stretches all the way from Greece to India. We're talking mountains of wealth and completely invincible armies. But there is one glaring, catastrophic problem. He leaves absolutely no clear heir.
So it's the question that just hung in the air like a drawn sword. Who inherits the world? And, the answer doesn't just involve reading a simple will. Actually, scratch that. It's more like decades of shifting alliances, stolen corpses, endless bloodshed, and warlords literally carving up continents.
Okay, let's dive into this. To make sense of this incredibly dense, multi-continental history, we've broken this explainer down into 5 clear chapters. 1. Alexander's empty throne. 2. The Wars of Successors. 3. Stealing the Conqueror's corpse. 4. Extinction of the bloodline. And 5. Forging the Hellenistic world. Chapter 1. Alexander's empty throne. So the immediate chaos kicks off at the Council of Babylon. Alexander's generals are literally standing before his empty throne, his diadem, his ring, his armor, just sitting right there. And the scramble for power begins instantly. But to really grasp what happens next, we need to define a crucial term, the diadochi, or the successors. These were the rival generals, the family members, and the close friends of Alexander, who fought tooth and nail for control of his empire. You see, these guys were driven by deeply ingrained Macedonian military values. To them, kingship was all about strength, delegating to your closest companions, and, well, fighting. This hyper-competitive militarism completely fractured Alexander's dream of a universal monarchy. Right off the bat, we get this incredibly volatile split, and you can really see the contrast here. On one side, you've got the heavily armored, pristine, elite generals. On the other, the bloodied, unarmored common soldiers. The elitist generals, who were led by Perdiccas, backed Alexander's unborn half-Persian son. But the common Macedonian phalanx soldiers, they were highly xenophobic. There was no way they wanted a half-Persian ruler, so they backed Alexander's half-brother, Ardaeus, even though he had a known mental disability. The result of all this tension? A wildly unworkable compromise. They set up this super fragile co-regency between the half-brother, who they crowned Philip III, and the newborn infant son, Alexander IV. But those shadowy hands you might imagine grasping at the map beneath the crowns? Yeah, this arrangement really just allowed the ambitious generals to carve up the empire's provinces for themselves, acting as guardians and satraps. It was absolutely a ticking time bomb for civil war. Chapter 2. The Wars of Successors. The sheer scale of this power vacuum ignited brutal conflicts across 3 entire continents. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, rather than getting bogged down in every single tactical maneuver. Alexander dies in 323 BCE. Just 2 years later, by 321, the generals are already having to repartition the whole empire at Triparadisos because of, you guessed it, endless betrayals and dead regents. By 316, the brutal Second War ends, which fundamentally shifts the balance of power. And by 309, we're seeing massive turning points, like Seleucus officially taking Babylon, which establishes a whole new dynasty. To really grasp what these wars looked like on the ground, consider this number, 90,000. That is the number of troops levied by just one warlord, Antigonos, for a single massive campaign to invade Egypt. We're talking about horizon-spanning multi-ethnic armies crashing into each other with a scale of mobilization that was, quite frankly, absolutely terrifying. And the tactics? Brutal, highly cinematic. This era saw the deployment of what the sources basically describe as the ancient world's mother of all bombs, the war elephant. At huge clashes like the Battle of Paratacani, warlords fielded massive lines of these giant beasts. Their whole job was to smash through dense pike phalanxes, completely trample enemy cavalry lines, and just spread absolute panic across the battlefield. Chapter 3. Stealing the Conqueror's Corpse. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer audacity of this one general, Ptolemy. He's down in Egypt, right? A very wealthy, highly defensible province, and he wants total independence. He acts like a literal chaos snake, weaving through the political landscape. Step 1, he intercepts Alexander the Great's funeral procession in Syria. Step 2, he literally hijacks the conqueror's corpse and transports it back to Egypt.
Why? Because in the Hellenistic era, possessing Alexander's physical body offered the ultimate political legitimacy. It's a crazy power move. Well, the regent, Perdiccas, is absolutely furious about this. He declares war and marches his forces on Egypt to get the body back. But Ptolemy defends the Nile brilliantly. Perdiccas starts getting desperate. He throws his war elephants into the deep, sinking sands of the river and ends up losing a massive number of his own men to the currents. It's a complete disaster. His army is so incredibly angry at this spectacular failure that his own top officers, including a guy named Seleucus, march right into his tent and assassinate him.
Chapter 4: Extinction of the Bloodline. With the warlords constantly turning on each other, we enter undeniably the darkest, most tragic arc of this explainer. Look at this chilling breakdown of how the warlords treated the royal family. They were completely disposable chess pieces. First, the half-brother Philip III is murdered by Alexander's own mother, Olympias. Then, the warlord Cassander captures Olympias and leaves her to be stoned to death. Later on, Cassander secretly murders Alexander's wife, Roshanak, and his rightful heir, the young Alexander IV. And finally, Cassander bribes another general, Polypyrchon, to murder Alexander's last surviving illegitimate son, Heracles. Cassander just systematically cleared the board.
So the crucial point is this: as the quote says, this tragic and unceremonious end is a testament to the brutality of Hellenistic politics. Think about that. A legendary Macedonian dynasty, the Argeads, that had ruled for centuries, that had literally just conquered the known world, was completely and ruthlessly extinguished in just a couple of decades.
Chapter 5: Forging the Hellenistic World.
With the bloodline totally dead, the warlords finally drop the facade of maintaining a united empire. They just start crowning themselves as kings. And to secure these new kingdoms, their ambition was staggering. Look at the number 9. When the Antigonid dynasty wanted to punish the neutral island of Rhodes, a general named Demetrios, who literally became known as the Besieger, built the Helepolis. This was an amphibious siege tower that was 9 stories high. It was covered in iron plates to stop fire, packed with catapults, and had to be pushed by over 3,000 men. It perfectly shows the colossal, almost unbelievable resources these new kings were willing to burn just to assert their dominance. And this brilliantly illustrates what happened when the dust finally settled. The map of the ancient world had been completely redrawn into a new geopolitical reality. You've got Ptolemy ruling a wealthy, stable Egypt. Seleucus emerges to control the vast eastern territories from Babylon. Antigonos is dominating Asia Minor and the Levant. Cassander fiercely holds on to Macedon and Greece, and Lysimachus commands Thrace. As our source so powerfully summarizes, giving us this image of dying classical beasts and shattered armor, quote, "The classical and Achaemenid worlds are dying, and the Hellenistic world struggles to be born. Now is the time of kings and generals." We are impartially looking at a monumental transition here. Alexander's unified dream was dead, and it was replaced by an era defined by ambitious new dynasties, incredible cultural blending, and constant, unending warfare. Which brings us right back to where we started, leaving us with this really provocative question. If Alexander had left a clear, undisputed heir of age, would the world look completely different today? Or was this horizon-spanning empire, built solely on continuous military conquest, always destined to shatter the very moment the conquering stopped? It's a fascinating thought to leave you with. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.